Alright guys, so I want to talk real quick about cards I think are going to be very important in the upcoming meta. Some of these cards, some of the cards that a lot of people think are important, I've left off the list for certain various reasons. And at the end of this discussion, I also want to talk a little bit about why I think Mermails are going to be a very competitive deck. And I'm actually talking about title or the regular version of Mermails. Now, the number one card I think is probably going to be just highly important in this format is Effect Veiler. Whether it's Effect Veiling a Prophecy player's little blue magician guy so they can't get their secrets and start off all their shenanigans, whether it's Veiling an opponent's big eye, monsters are not safe on the board unless you have a Veiler in hand. I mean, I just can't tell you enough about how good Veiler is going to be next format. Breakthrough skill is also a very viable option if you're running prophecies or dragons and you need to negate something on your turn to special summon you guys. In other words, you need to negate an Ophion during your turn to summon your shit. But I'm assuming that you guys aren't running prophecies or dragons because that shit is expensive. Next up is Max C. With how just the busted, crazy dragons are, they special summon everything though. It's all special summons. So yeah, Max C is just gonna be the nuts. Right now the top three decks are Prophecy, where it's not really good. Dragons and Mermails, where it's very good against both decks. Next we have Thunder King. Thunder King has been dropping a lot in popularity, and I'm not sure why. A Thunder King with any amount of protection will shut down Prophecies for a long while, unless they happen to have, like, Justice plus Power, and then if you have back row, it doesn't even matter, or if they have a Veiler. Those are like their only outs to Thunder King. So I think Thunder King's still awesome. It keeps the dragons from adding more shit to their hand when they banish stuff and everything, but it's not that great against dragons, honestly. But I'd say mostly this is for the Mermail and Prophecy match. He's more of a side deck card these days, I'd say, but I still think he's very important, especially against Prophecy. Now, next up is Rivalry of Warlords. I think this is a great card right now, as long as your deck can support it, because what it is your opponent can only control one type of monster. Now, what decks does this card shut down? Well, it shuts down Evil Swarms, and it keeps dragons from going into their XYZ plays and making Dragosack and all that other shenanigan type business. So I think Rivalry of the Warlords is just going to be a really good side deck card if you guys can side deck it. Next up is Eradicator Epidemic Virus. Obviously, this is going to be a great card this format with Prophecies running around like mad. EEV just is a one-card win against Prophecy players. That's all there is to it. Next is Kaiko, the Ghost Destroyer. He prevents your opponent from banishing cards from the grave, which is essentially the exact same thing as Imperial Iron Wall, except he still allows you to banish cards from your grave. So he's great in any sort of mirror match where you need to banish cards but your opponent doesn't, or where your opponent needs to banish cards and you don't. And then last up, actually hold on. Okay, last two are Imperial Iron Wall and Mind Drain. I'm going to go over Mind Drain first. Mind Drain means that the effects of effect monsters in the hand cannot be activated. This is great for stopping your opponent's, all of their hand traps. It stops Frog Monarchs from using their Battle Faders and stuff, from dropping Tragodia. things of that sort. It keeps the dragons from using any of their effects in the hand. Essentially, Mind Drain plus Macro against dragons, they have no outs to it except for maybe the one Heavy Storm. And obviously, it keeps Priestess from revealing and summoning herself, because that effect activates in the hand. It prevents Megalo, Abystius, most of the Mermail deck. Next up is Imperial Iron Wall. It just says cards cannot be removed from play, from your graveyard or from your opponent's. It is a great counter to Macro if your deck has a problem with that. It is a great counter to Dragons because they can't banish things from their graveyard. And obviously, Prophecies can't remove things for their Spellbook of Fate, I believe it is, their most annoying card, and they can't banish things with Priestess to blow up your stuff. So I think this is a fantastic card, and it's for this card, I think, will make Mermails continue to be a relevant deck. Now, I understand that, and I'm talking title Mermails here, I understand that is the best way to play Mermails right now is title Mermails, and Imperial Iron Wall conflicts with title. All you do is going into game 2, you board out your title and your stream, and you board in Imperial Iron Wall, and then like if you're going against Prophecies, you also board in like Anti-Spell Fragrance, things like that. I mean, the fact that Mermails now have a very good reason to run a card that prevents monsters from being removed from play, they have a side deck which will prevent their biggest weakness, which is Macro, while at the same time crippling the top 2 other decks of the format. I think that's why Mermails are going to be very, very good. They still have that aggressive game 1 with title Mermails. They can still do all sorts of crazy shenanigans. And then even if they lose out to Dragons game 1, game 2, they just board out title and stream, board in Imperial Iron Wall, and I don't know, something else. And then you just win. Like, if you're playing conventional Mermails with Imperial Iron Wall versus Dragons, if they can't banish things from their graveyard, you're going to raffle stomp them. So, I think Imperial Iron Wall, as a side deck card, makes Mermails continue to be a competitive deck that I think can still do a lot of good stuff. And then last up, I'd say Abyss Dweller. I think Abyss Dweller is going to be a hugely key card this meta, mostly against Dragons. Because essentially, what the strategy is to, most of the Dragon players are like, oh, I got 2 cards in my hand, no big deal. I got a graveyard full of 10 monsters, just banish a few things, and I'm good to go again. Doesn't even matter. So the strategy is just force your opponent to use up most of his hand, and then sit on an Abyss Dweller for 1 or 2 turns while you just OTK them. Abyss Dweller stops your opponent from activating effects in the grave, so obviously it's great against Mermails, and again, if you can just force your opponent to use up most of the cards in their hand if they're playing Dragons, and then you slap an Abyss Dweller on the field, suddenly their graveyard is not a second hand, and all that reckless shit they did is now going to fucking screw them over. So I think Abyss Dweller is going to be probably the most important extra deck card of this coming format. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys think I overlooked something, I know I didn't include Droll and Lockbird on this list, and yes, I understand that card is fantastic against Prophecies. The only problem I have with the card is that it stalls for 1 turn. It is like, I have 1 turn now. Like, if I go my opening hand of 5 cards, my opponent goes and, does all that shenanigans first turn, second turn I draw into Droll and Lockbird, but it doesn't matter, they're already set up. Or even if I do open with it, I stall them out for 1 turn, and then they come back the next turn with all the same sort of derp and just beat my ass into the ground anyway. I think Thunder King Ryo is a better option than Droll and Lockbird. Personally, that's just me. But obviously, some decks aren't compatible with Thunder King, but I just think Droll and Lockbird is a little bit overhyped for like the $10 it's going for. I don't know, guys. That's just me thinking. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about Mermails possibly being a good meta choice thanks to Imperial Iron Wall. And I think Mind Drain is going to be the best card of the format as long as you aren't worried about Evil Swarms. Like if you're running something like Tin Gadgets or like Bubble Beat or any sort of anti-meta deck where Ophion doesn't bother you, but Prophecy and Dragons do, Mind Drain just like shuts down those decks super hard. So I mean, in pretty much every single anti-meta deck I own, I'm running Mind Drain in threes because it just shuts down so many decks. And like I said, Macro plus Mind Drain just kills about every single meta deck around. It shuts down your Mermails, your Dragons, and your Prophecies. No one's really running Spell and Trap removal anymore, except for maybe one Heavy Storm, so you get that shit set up on the board first turn, you are in a real good position to win no matter how bad the rest of your hand is. So let me know your guys' thoughts about other anti-meta cards this format, things I might have overlooked, stuff like that, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.